the code to a book called the Bible, the most read document in the history of the world, from the beginning to the end. There has never been anything like the Bible. But like any book, it has characters, and each character has a name. To know the code is to know the character. Since it's in Hebrew, here's the code. When you see the word God, find out which one. When you see the word man, find out which one. For Adam had no parents. So to say that he was created and all men are created equal doesn't work. He was made by an angelic. Therefore, he's not like you or I, who have parents. Moving on now from the code. Jesus, the only being in the universe to become part of creation as a man, known as the last Adam, and returned to sky heaven as a quickened spirit. In the spiritual realm, he is a warrior on a white horse. To know the warrior, one must know the last Adam, Jesus, the quickened spirit. Also, since he is the last Adam, who was the first Adam, a living soul. The 1 Corinthians 15:45, and so it is written, the first man, Adam, was made a living soul. The last Adam was made a quickening spirit. It is a sown natural body. It is raised a spiritual body. There is a natural body and there is a spiritual body. The last Adam is Jesus, the only man to become a quickened spirit and enter into sky heaven with Father El amongst angelics. But Jesus did not bear a name Adam, so what is an Adam? And who was the first Adam? The first Adam, a living soul, came out of the garden begotten by Jehovah Lord. And Adam is made by an angelic, neither mother nor father. Genesis 2:7, and the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. The man Adam made from the dust had no name and is referred to as mankind in Genesis 2:7. The breath of life received from Jehovah Lord made him a fellow and the first of his kind, an Adam. Now, was he not only mankind, but within this race of humans he was given a name of Adam. According to 1 Corinthians, Adam was the first Adam, also known as mankind. Genesis 2:19, and whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof. The last Adam in 1 Corinthians 15:45 was Jesus. Yet he is not referred to as an Adam by name, but as an Adam by definition, a man without parents, begotten by an angelic. He is referred to as the last Adam, being the last of mankind, begotten without parents. So the first Adam was named Adam, and the last Adam was named Jesus. An Adam is a person made by an angelic without parents. Today, a man can be referred to as a dude, or by race, black, white, Asian, or by country, American, African, Egyptian, etc. I think it would be safe to say that no other men have ever been made by an angelic since Jesus. Although many today say God made them, some say God did not create a mistake when he made me. Others all say all men are created equal. It would be hard to justify you or I are born in the womb or like a man handmade by an angelic. Only a few men and women have ever been begotten by an angelic, and they have no parents. We are not equal to them. God did not make me. My parents got together and through conception made little Johnny. And little Johnny was not equal to the first Adam, not even close to the only begotten son of El, the last Adam, Jesus. We are like Cain, the first son of Adam and Eve, born from the seed of a man and the womb of a woman through conception. And he had children, and they had children like us through conception. We have all created things, and I believe Jehovah planted a garden and put a seed in the ground of my garden and became a creator of the plant. I put a plant in the ground I was the creator of the plant that came forth from my garden. I, as the creator of the plant, would water the plant and later could say to the plant, I made thee. The wind came, and blew the seeds from the plant I made, and they grew on the earth. But I did not make all the plants behind my house. They came from the plant I made first. Jehovah did the same thing with the first Adam in the garden. When he made him out of the dust of the ground, however, Jehovah did not make Cain the first man born of the womb. Cain's parents, Adam and Eve, made Cain through conception. To know the warrior in the spiritual realm, one must know him as Jesus, the last Adam. A man can be called a dude, but in this case, a man begotten is referred to as an Adam by definition. And to know the first Adam, a man, one must also know him as a dude, or the first Adam, a dude. Adam was a dude. In this case, dude in the Bible is a man made by an angelic. The two Adams or dudes referred to in 1 Corinthians are very special indeed. However, it appears another man or dude was made or begotten by an angelic. Jehovah Lord makes Adam after he builds a garden on the earth in Genesis 2. But what about Genesis 1 and the great creation? One comes before two, does it not? The word Lord or Jehovah is not even in Genesis 1, which covers millions of years, including an ice age and dinosaurs. But the word God appears many times in Genesis 1 as the Creator, Genesis 1:1. This is the first verse in the book. It says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Now we have Elohiym God, Elohim, the Hebrew name for God, in chapter 1, creating the heaven and the earth in Genesis 1. And after his creation of the earth, Jehovah Lord builds a garden, and the first Adam, or was he the first of mankind? Note, Elohim creates a man in Genesis 1. Unlike Jehovah, who goes by Lord, who makes his Adam out of the dust of the earth, this new Adam was made in the image of God, Elohim, along with the female. Genesis 1:27. So Elohim created mankind known as Adam in his own image. In the image of Elohim created he him. Male and female created he them. And Elohim blessed them. And Elohim said, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it. Now, we have another Adam or dude begotten by an angelic in Genesis 1:27 by Elohim along with the female. And they were told to be fruitful and multiply. Later, a second Adam, or dude, made by an angelic in Genesis 2:28, is made from the dust of the earth by Jehovah Lord. Let me ask you a question. How many times have you heard this one? Do not use the Lord's name in vain. Have you ever heard anybody say, Lord damn it? Have you ever heard anybody say, God damn it? So the Lord said, don't use the Lord's name in vain. Jehovah Lord is not Elohiym God. And his female Eve, who is made out of Adam's rib, by Jehovah Lord, the code. It's simple. When you see the word Lord, call him Jehovah. When you see the word God, call him Elohim. They are two separate people. One made a man in his own image in Genesis 1. Another one made a man out of the dust of the ground on the earth that the Elohiym God had created. Genesis 2:22. And the rib which the Lord God had taken from man made he a woman. A woe man, and brought her unto the man. And Adam called his wife's name Eve, because she was the mother of all living. The first female in Genesis 1 made by Elohim, and the second female, Eve, made out of the rib of Adam, had no parents. So by definition, they would be considered mankind or Adam as well. My wife is not a man, but she is still considered part of the human race, which is called mankind. The last Adam, Jesus, the quickening spirit, who lived, died, and returned into the spiritual realm, is the last Adam. And now we have two men and two women who are also an Adam. All five people by definition known as Adam or mankind, or call them dude and dudette. identified as such by the fact that they had no parents and were begotten by an angelic. Now, let's get more proof of the two males and females known as mankind or Adam. Before the flood, we can prove that Elohim and Jehovah both put their generations in book. Note, Elohim, who made a male and a female in Genesis 1:27, will finish his creation a few verses later on the seventh day. Genesis 2:1, thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And Elohim blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which Elohim created and made. So Elohim's finished. What's the word finished mean? I'm done. As soon as Elohim is done in verse 3 of chapter 2, what do you see in the next verse? Chapter 2 of Genesis, verse 4. These are the generations of the heaven and of the earth when they were created in the day that Jehovah Lord made the earth and the heavens. That is the next verse. Finished means done.